What's happening, everybody? LightningSnow back today with another video. Today, I got my good friend back today, DygoKnight. Say it, everybody.
How's it going, everybody?
So today, I kind of wanted to take a break, another week's break for Versus Battle videos to do something that I've been wanting to do for a while, which is ranking each Naruto arc, respectively. And today, instead of doing like a normal ranking per se, Daigo and I are going to cover the Naruto arcs. And the list I have is randomized, so it's not going to be, in chronological order, just to kind of make it more interesting. But as we go through these arcs and talk about them respectively and score them respectively, at the end of the video, Daigo and I are going to try to guess what our favorite arc is depending on the scores that we give. Kind of give like a little teaser for the end of the video, so I think that's...
Stick around!
Yeah, so make sure you stick around. So again, this, if we score your favorite arc a little bit low, don't hate us for it. This is really just opinion based, but the scoring is gonna be 1 to 5. Let's get it. So the first one we have is the Tsunade Rescue Arc, and now I will say, as a kid, I was not the biggest fan of this arc. I do remember as a kid when like Naruto's airing on Toonami, because I kind of watched Naruto in the anime, first before I really read the manga. So like as week by week as the arc was going, I didn't really like it a whole lot at first, but as an adult, I love it. I love the story beats of it. So right at the gate we have Itachi and Kisame rolling up on the village.
Yeah, that's also part of the arc. People don't really think about it, but that's in the Search for Tsunade arc, and it's really good. Like, Itachi's introduction is fire, and people kind of overlook it.
For sure. Like, honestly, because like Itachi was built up like nobody's business, bro. Like I'm telling you, like he was one of the main antagonists of part 1, and he had like one of the best build up to a character, and
he barely had any screen time.
Yeah, I was
part
like,
1.
When you build up a character that much, there's no way. Well, I guess there is a way you could bomb it, but they didn't. Like, there's no way they were gonna bomb Itachi's introduction.
Oh, trust me, there is a way, and we're gonna get to it in this video.
But for the most part, like Itachi's introduction was solid. Like there's just at the time you couldn't get bigger than Itachi, especially after we just had Orochimaru like sack the village, and here comes someone who's like a tier above that. It just again rolling up on my boy Kakashi, one-shotting him essentially, and showing up every other Jonin that was there, and then Kisame. Not really. Even though Itachi stole the show, like Kisame did a pretty good job as leaving a good impression, despite being in Itachi's shadow.
And you had the start of the rivalry with Mike Guy as well, and when Guy kicks him, that's pretty cool too.
I'm telling you, I get chilled every time I see, Guy, leave Hurricane.
Just arriving there.
Yeah. So like going on to, and I like how it kind of that interaction with Itachi kind of weaves into the more importance of finding Tsunade to heal Sasuke and Kakashi.
And the confrontation with Sasuke is probably the highlight for that section of the arc when Itachi is in the story. It's really nice and well done. Mm-hmm. And the way Kishimaru shows the flashback of the Uchiha massacre for the first time is also pretty well thought out and woven into the narrative.
Yeah, I do like how he gave us just enough, the first time around, because they kind of go into like little by little in the series they divulge more about the Uchiha clan massacre. So like at the beginning he told you just the surface level stuff that you needed to know at that time, which I think is definitely good storytelling. It builds up more, it gives you more like suspense as the series goes on, because they kind of cut back to it during the Naruto and Sasuke fight at the end of part 1. They give you more detail on the Uchiha clan massacre, and then obviously more on Shippuden. So I think that like you said, like it gives you more backstory, but it gives you just enough to be invested at the time. So yeah, and I like.
And then there's the Tsunade portion too, I suppose, which people kind of underrate, in my opinion, because Tsunade's arc. And this arc is amazing. It's one of the best, most well thought out arcs in the series for a character, and I would say one of the most mature ones as well. It's
for sure.
Not really like a shonen character arc. It's very different. And also, Naruto's first Rasengan on Kabuto is one of the best scenes in the entire show.
Oh, definitely. And like you said about Tsunade, like I was one of the ones that was underrating her as a character when I first watched it. Like I said, as a kid, I was really all about the action. I didn't really get, the whole story, character-driven plot line of Tsunade. I didn't appreciate it as much as I definitely should have. But like I said, as an adult, when you look at her through the eyes of an adult, you totally get her, and you totally sympathize with her, because when you think about it, her situation could exist in the real world. Like Naruto and Sasuke's situation. I mean, I guess you could make cases for stuff like this, but like normally, Sasuke and Naruto's situations and stuff like Gaara's situation, they really wouldn't exist in the real world per se. But Tsunade's is a real world, situation that many could sympathize with. She lost two of her, her important people to war. There were war tragedies, war casualties, and so like it's something you could call it. And so when she wrestles with the decision with Orochimaru, it's something that you could totally get behind. You understand where she's coming from, and like if you were to put yourself in those shoes, like what would you do? So it's a great, like you said, it's just a great character that was written in there. I think people do underrate Tsunade's character development, at least specifically in that arc too. So
yeah.
If I had a 1 to 5 in this arc, I as an adult, I'd probably give it a 3.5. I don't want to throw out big numbers right off the bat, but storytelling is there.
I'll give this one a solid 4.5. To be honest, I really like this arc.
I can totally agree with that, because again, like as a kid, I didn't like it, but as an adult, I totally love it. But because the story, it's definitely one of the better written arcs. But I was sticking with 3.5, but I could definitely respect the 4.5. So now we're going to go on to mid-Shippuden, and to be more specific, it's the tale of Jiraiya the Gallant and fated battle between brothers. We're going to condense this into one arc because they pretty much happen relatively around the same time.
At the same time, almost, like they are happening at the same time. The fights are intertwined in the story.
Yeah. So the first thing we'll go over is the Jiraiya's fight with Pain. I'm telling you, man, I don't know if I've been on the edge of my... I can't really remember a fight between... Aside from maybe Naruto, or maybe Sakura versus Sasori, that a fight that I was on the edge of my seat. At least as far as Shippuden goes, because when you're watching Jiraiya fight Pain, you're pretty much in his shoes the first time seeing the Rinnegan's abilities. You're totally taken back by it. You don't know what he's going to do next. Like, you're thinking to yourself, like, Jiraiya, what can you do? Like, get out of there. Get out of the village, whatever. Yeah. I'm just going off the rails here, because that's exactly how I felt whenever I was watching the fight.
I like how the backstory is also used to make the fight more interesting, and Jiraiya having this connection with a Rinnegan god person that was born in that village. Mm-hmm. And everything just feels very epic in that fight, and also very desperate, which I think is a very nice combination.
Oh, for sure. And like I said, that sense of desperation is added on to the fact of helplessness, because again, like we're putting ourselves in Jiraiya's shoes. Every time Pain pulls out a new ability, you're like, oh crap, because like it kept cutting back to the Jiraiya maybe having an advantage over Pain at some point, but then Pain makes a use of a new ability that he hadn't shown Jiraiya yet. And so now you're like, well, crap. Like, what's he going to do now? All at the same time, like you say, giving the more backstory on Jiraiya and Nagato's relationship.
And also, Jiraiya's death is actually one of the best deaths in the series, I would say.
Oh, by far.
The shot when he is like sinking into the ocean and thinking about the sequel for his story, the tale of Naruto Uzumaki, is pretty good.
That's burned into every fan's mind, unfortunately. Like, there's no way I can like watch that and not get teary-eyed a little bit, especially when you're like rewatching it as a whole and you get to that point, you're like, crap, because it's coming, but it's like you're still not ready for it. But I definitely do think that like you said, it's definitely one of the better written, and it's one of those things that it had to happen, like for Naruto's character development, and for what it is, I'm glad they like made that death well written, if that makes any sense. Like they really like nailed home that death. So and then going on to that, at the same time, the battle between Sasuke and Itachi. I'm telling you, man, like we said earlier about Itachi's build up when he was first introduced, this fight had very good build up.
Yeah, it's pretty much the climax for Sasuke's character in the middle of the Naruto Shippuden era. Mm-hmm. And it feels that way because it's a big fight with all those crazy abilities. You see Amaterasu for the first time. We saw a glimpse before Naruto Part 1, but here we see it actually how it works.
Yeah.
And it was pretty insane. Also, more backstory about the Uchiha clan and the Mangekyo Sharingan is good. And I mean, I just like the overall choreography in this fight. It's just a pretty damn well thought out fight. And there's Kirin as well, which is really nice.
Honestly, yeah. If I had to name a jutsu that like I love seeing in this fight, it is definitely Kirin. I was not expecting that from Sasuke. The second I saw that, I was like, what did Orochimaru freaking teach him, dog? But like you said, and thematically this fight works. This fight like nails,
Yeah.
Like I said, build up was there, and then they delivered. Again, like I said earlier, there was no way they could just bomb a fight this built up. It had to deliver, and it definitely did. Especially when you go.
And there's also the major plot twist that happens after the fight, which is probably the most shocking one in the series. Like, Itachi was a good guy. You're like, oh, okay. This changes things, I suppose.
Well, that's the thing is, like, they built up Itachi's character so well that like, you really, like, when you look back on it, there are subtle hints, but they are very subtle to the point where, like, even if you were to think back on it, you're like, okay, no, there's no way I could have 100% known that Itachi was a good guy. Again, there's just little hints, but they're not, like, that much giving away to the point where, like, if you're rewatching it, you're like, oh, okay, I could have noticed that. Because Itachi plays it off really well. So yeah, when the twist finally is revealed, it is a bomb drop. You're like, what? Because like, especially if you're like reading in the manga, for people who are like the manga readers, I guarantee you this was like Itachi's reign as a villain lasted even longer than it was in the anime. So like you had to deal with Itachi being a cold-hearted villain for even longer. So when the twist finally was revealed, it probably changed everyone's world. I know it changed.
Yeah.
I know it changed my world. Even though I was watching it from the anime, it changed my world completely. So, this arc, man, I'm telling you, like, this is the foundation for the rest of Shippuden. If I had to be honest with you, like, I know some events from part 1 lay the foundation for a lot of what happens in Shippuden, but this divulging point for both Naruto and Sasuke's character, like, this pretty much defines the rest of what happens in Shippuden. So there was no way they were gonna be able to, like, again, storytelling was great here. What they had to deliver on, they delivered, in my opinion. So if I had to give 1 to 5, I'd say this one is probably a 5. I don't think I have many.
Yeah, I'm with you. This one, this is a 5.
Like, I don't think I have any issues with this arc whatsoever, to be honest with you. I don't think it drags at all, and I think the heights are there 100%. So I have nothing better.
Especially in the manga, because in the anime they tend to put a little bit of an extra flashback here and there that's not necessary, but it's an amazing arc for sure. I'd give 5 too.
Well, even when it quote drags, we get the Toby impression. We get the Toby like trolling.
Well, yeah, but that's. I wouldn't even say it's dragging in that situation. It's only sometimes in the anime when they choose to like put some flashbacks again of Sasuke and Itachi when they were kids and stuff, which we've seen before. But that part I'm fine with. Like, it's good to have some variation too. And obviously Toby had to leave, so they couldn't get to Itachi and Sasuke fighting.
Yeah, well, if the arc had to have a dragging point, that would be the only thing I could remotely think of. But even that's like it's comic relief, but it's good tension relief though, and it works perfectly. So yeah. So the next one we're gonna go on to is the 5 Kage Summit. This one I know is a fan favorite arc. I gotta be honest with you, like I'm not I love it. I do love it. I'm not of the opinion that a lot of people are of, because like I know a lot of people love this arc, but
I love this arc. I really like it. I think there's one big missed opportunity with it, which I'll get to it, but I just think that's seeing all the villages coming together for the first time in any capacity, and seeing the Kage for the first time in several of the villages. It feels very different from what we saw before, and it's a good change of pace because we just had the pain arc and things were pretty crazy with a very big climax for the story. And now there's this new specific situation they're in, and everything that the characters are going through is pretty heavy here. For Sasuke, he wants blood because of what they done to him and Itachi in the Leaf Village. Naruto is trying to save Sasuke, and he goes and pleads with the Raikage. He has a panic attack because Sasuke attacked the 5 Kage summit. And I just like seeing Sasuke fight, to be honest. And he goes through every single Kage in this arc, so I'm like, yeah, I like this.
Yo, for sure.
The only big missed opportunity I see with this is the Sasuke versus Kakashi fight, which should have been a much bigger deal.
Oh,
it should have been a climactic fight in this arc. Yes, they treat the Danzo fight as the climax, and then what happens with Team 7 is kind of like the aftermath, but Sasuke versus Kakashi should have been much more, grandiose and important, because it's, Kakashi seeing Sasuke for the first time after he leaves the village.
Yeah.
And it is glossed over and kind of boring.
Yeah, for sure. And shout out to whoever made that fan animation of that fight too, because someone made a fan animation of that fight, and they did a solid job.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I totally 100% agree. I even thought the first time I watched it, I was like, what the heck? I mean, is that all that's going to happen? Even the Naruto and Sasuke section, there wasn't even much fight there. Everyone considers that an actual fight, but nothing ever really happened. They're just.
I mean, I'm kind of fine with Naruto and Sasuke not fighting for real. I would have liked to see that, but we knew that we would get a fight between Naruto and Sasuke eventually. But Sasuke and Kakashi, that was the moment to get that fight.
True.
And it's an important fight because it's the teacher and student, especially because Sasuke was Kakashi's prime student back in part 1. And I mean, their fight doesn't really deliver, unfortunately. And that's the only thing I can complain about this arc, really.
Yeah. About the rest of the arc, though, like it's solid. Like, again, there's so many character development, moments in this arc that it really, and it's all kinds of chaotic too. It's like you don't even have time to digest things that are happening because things keep happening right after, like one after the other.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Sakura doing that dumb confession for one thing. I do hate that.
I like that. I think it's an interesting character moment. Yeah, you kind of hate Sakura for it, but it's interesting for the character and the story, I would say.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see Naruto's reaction and like knowing he ain't no simp about it, but it's definitely, it just kind of came out of the blue, I guess, and that was like the only thing I was like, I feel like it was a bit off character, but I do see people's like, like the love about it because it's an interesting character dynamic. But then you got that happening. You have Toby coming in like right out of the blue and telling Naruto, Kakashi, and Yamato the truth about Itachi. Then you have Sasuke barreling through the Kage. Then you have Sasuke versus Danzo. Then you have Team 7 reunion. Like, again, everything just happens one after the other. And it like
there's also the Kisame versus B fight, which is overlooked, but it happens in that arc as well. It's a fun fight too.
Yeah, true. So this arc is compacted, and there really is no dragging points in it. There's no real filler like fluff in this arc either, not that I can remember anyway, even in the anime. So like, yeah,
even in the anime they actually do this arc pretty well in terms of pacing.
So like, I honestly I do like this arc for what it is. I know a lot of people love it to death, and I definitely can see why. It's one of those things where like, I think if I had to think of a reason why I don't like it, is because I like Sasuke so much. I get it, it's a great character moment. Just for me, I don't know. I always pictured Sasuke being more calm and level-headed, but the fact that he tried to go through 5 Kage and thought that was a good idea. Don't get me wrong, he did a great job for who he's fighting. It was just one of the things like would never see Sasuke beforehand doing something this reckless.
Yeah, it's just I see that as kind of the point. Sasuke was, getting consumed by hatred, and the Mangekyo Sharingan was getting more powerful because of it.
Yeah,
he was not acting rationally.
Yeah,
in that arc.
Yeah, so I totally get that. It's just one of those things like, when I first watched, I was like, really, like Sasuke, you really think that's a good idea? But no, for what it is, I love this arc. But if I had to give it 1 to 5, I give it a 4. Maybe a 4. I could probably give it a 4.5 if I had to be honest. But I think I'm sticking with 4.
I'll give this one a solid 4.5.
Okay.
I think I rank this one pretty much the same as the Search for Tsunade arc. I think they're both very, very good arcs, but not in the top tier of Naruto.
Right. Now we're going to go on to the early war arc. And this is going to be from the beginning of the war arc until right before Madara shows up. So, like specifically against like the 4th division when he got reanimated by Kabuto. So like that's the cutoff. So
when Mother stands upon them with the sun, beaming on him,
Yeah.
that's when this ends.
Yes. I know a lot of people are of the objective that they don't like this. But I agree. I don't like it a whole lot, but there are some pretty good moments. I will say. I know that's objectively not the most contention amongst the fandom, but for what they had to deliver on, because again, this is like a build up. You know, this was built up for a minute.
Yeah, but there are problems with this arc, specifically in the first day of the war. There are several fights you're not very interested in. I mean, Kakashi versus Zabuza and Haku is pretty cool. Obviously, it's a lot of fan service. Oh, we're seeing them again fighting the same way, but that's okay. But then the Ginkaku-Kinkaku fight is probably one of the worst fights in the series, if not the worst.
100%.
The Hanzo versus Mifune fight is not bad, but like you're watching that or reading that and you're thinking, why am I watching those two characters fighting? Like they had no real importance in the series at all, and I get the feeling other much more important and interesting characters are being neglected. But as you said before, there are cool moments, especially after the first day, I would say, when Naruto arrives at the battlefield, and especially the fight against Nagato and Itachi, when Itachi breaks free of Edo Tensei. That's one of the most like hype moments of the series. You're like, oh my god, that was insane. Like even Kabuto's like, oh, Itachi's on another level. It's one of those very like, oh well, Itachi's cool moments, and I like that. Also, the reverse talk no jutsu Itachi gives on Naruto is pretty good moment in the series too. But there are a lot of kind of low points in this arc too.
Oh, 100%. And unlike the arcs that we've mentioned beforehand, this does have dragging moments in this arc. Unfortunately,
especially in the anime. The anime is pretty insane in the war.
It is horrendous in the anime. It really. I mean, you have to just go. You might as well just pack a lunch when you're about to watch this in the anime. I'm being dead serious. It takes a minute. And like you said, like there are some good moments. Like I said, the Kakashi and Zabuza one, solid. I didn't mind the Team Ino Shikacho fighting Asuma. I did think it was a bit.
I don't like that fight. I think it's very unnecessary for the story.
I did think so.
Asuma, he already gave them his last words. You could have given Asuma a more interesting opponent if you wanted to bring Asuma back. Like bring Kurenai, make them fight.
Yeah, that is give Kurenai something to do. Yeah, I guess for like. I don't know. I did like it a little bit just because I always love seeing Shikamaru on screen. I don't really have.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, but
I'll say this: the fights against the 4 Kage in the second day before Madara arrives, they're all actually pretty good fights because they're short, sweet, and all those Kage are very interesting characters. Like Gaara's dad and the development Gaara had with his dad in the war was great. The fight against the 3rd Raikage was pretty cool, how Naruto beat him. Mu is a pretty cool character too, and I actually really like the second Mizukage. Gengetsu like has some very interesting jutsus, and the way he gets defeated is also cool. The big problem with this arc, I'd say, is the first day of the war, which has some really low points.
Yeah, I will touch up on something you just mentioned. The fight between the Kages. I do like the fight between Naruto and the 3rd Raikage specifically because it does show it just showcases how smart Naruto really is. Like he took the situation, kind of broke it down, and even asked some advice with how to defeat the 3rd Raikage. So it's like once he's able to assess the battle and act accordingly. I was like, bro, that's solid. That shows that like Naruto actually is smarter than what people might think. So yeah, and then like you said, the stuff between Nagato and Itachi, solid character. Like I love seeing Itachi and Naruto like on screen. It's actually pretty interesting. It's something that you don't see too often. So when it does, show it delivers. So, but other than that, I think there were some missed opportunities in this war. Specifically,
oh, absolutely, several.
Like as much as I like the Kakashi and Zabuza section, I think it would have been better to see Sakumo be reanimated and fight Kakashi.
I agreed, 100%. Yeah,
and Shisui kind of just other people that could have been brought back. Conan was definitely a missed opportunity. She didn't get much screen time whatsoever. So to have her brought back would have been a breath of some fresh air. But for what we got, it wasn't bad, but there are definitely some low points in this arc. So, 1 to 5, I unfortunately have to give it a 2.5 to 3. If I had to be honest.
Yeah, I think I'll stick with a 2.5 with this one. I mean, the Ginkaku Kinkaku fight I hate so much. Like, I can't stand them.
I know
So-
it does really suck that when you think of the beginning of the war arc, that's like one of the fights that you definitely think about, unfortunately. So it's like, and I'm not saying you
Yeah.
specifically, just anyone in general. That's one you think about.
It's the only real fight Daru participates in, and he's going to be the future Raikage. So it's like, oh, okay, you're in one of the worst fights in the series. Congratulations.
Yeah, I do feel bad for Darby though. I'm not gonna lie to you. So now we're gonna go on to this is the only filler arc that we have on this one, and I think it does fit well. It's the wedding arc at the end of the series. So this one, I'm not so sure if they have it as right after the fight between Naruto and Sasuke.
Yeah, it's definitely that.
So
yeah, until the end.
So that's pretty much covering the Sasuke, mini arc, Shikamaru mini arc, and then the wedding arc. If we're counting all that, I think it's actually pretty solid. It's one of those things where it really just ends the series off on a positive note for all the characters that are involved. It definitely, for me, I felt like it definitely made the series worth it to see the resolution of all these characters at the end of their arcs. Do I agree with everything that happened that led up to this moment? Like, not exactly, but from what we got with everyone's ending, and if you count Naruto Shippuden as the ending, if you don't want to watch Boruto, then yes, I do think that this is a solid arc. It's warm-hearted, the wedding, the stuff that seeing Kakashi as Hokage, but in a funny way, is definitely one of the best highlights for me in this arc. Seeing Iruka kind of, not sure what to say to Naruto, I thought it was a bit weird, but I did love it. Best moment for me by far in this arc is when Naruto asked Iruka to stand in as his father.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Though I would probably mostly disagree with the rest of your opinion here. I don't like this arc at all. I pretty much detest it.
What? No, I like it. I actually.
Yeah, no, I have some reasons for it if you want to hear them.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I like. First things first, what they do to Orochimaru, I can't stand.
Oh, that I can't.
That.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
I absolutely despise what they did to Orochimaru. Also, the way they finished the series, you don't see Naruto becoming the Hokage, and that's a big deal. Like, you actually see him becoming the Hokage in the manga. Not that I like the manga ending, but it's at least they show that.
Yeah.
And they don't do that in this part of the story here. They don't finish with Naruto becoming Hokage, which is, a weird choice to say the least. Also, I just don't like the stories that they're telling here, especially that Sasuke one. I mean, this is a little weird for me. I'm not a fan. And the romancy stuff. I actually like the Shikamaru and Temari episode, but the rest of it, like, I also like the part where Naruto asks Iruka to be like the dad in ceremony and stuff, but I don't like the rest of this arc.
I mean, I totally get the Orochimaru segment, like that one. That one was definitely out of left field. I was kind of scratching my head the entire time, so I'll give you that one. The Sasuke stuff, I didn't mind it. I thought it was a good, like, I don't know. I thought it was. For me, I love Sasuke a lot, so that's one of the things. Like, it's nice to see him calm and cool-headed and on the Leaf Village's side. So, and him kind of wrestling with the decisions of what to do, as kind of being the anti-hero, but still trying to make good on his.
Oh, I'm fine with that aspect. I just didn't like the story they went for with that particular arc.
Nah,
the section of the arc, at least. I
didn't
find it interesting.
I can understand that. I get it. The Shikamaru stuff I can agree with, and the romance. It's one of those things where it's like, I think maybe at this point I was just, wanting. I love the breath of fresh air that they were trying to convey here. Like, oh, everyone's kind of just relaxed now. We're just kind of, we're ending the series. With the Naruto Hokage thing, I do agree. Like, I didn't really think about it. That we don't see Naruto as Hokage. I think the reason I just kind of skip over it in my brain is because I think at that point, whenever I first saw it in the anime, like, I already knew Boruto was a thing. So
Yeah.
Like I kind of knew why they didn't show Naruto's Hokage. I do think it was a mistake that they didn't, but they probably thought like, all right, well, you know, because
People are gonna have to see Boruto now.
well, like
screw you.
well, like, I guess the movie The Last had already been like built up already, so like we knew that Naruto wasn't going to be Hokage before then the events of The Last. So it's like one of those things. Like I think they didn't even know what they were going to do as far as scheduling who's going to be Hokage when. So I will say that, like, I mean, me personally, I like the idea of us seeing Kakashi as the last person as Hokage in the series, but I do understand, like, I would have loved to see Naruto as the last person we see as Hokage, though, for sure. If I had to give this arc a 1 to 5, I personally would stick with a 3. It's not my favorite arc by any means, but I think it is a breath of fresh air.
I give this one a solid 1.5.
I can understand. I get it. It's one of those things.
The 0.5 is for Shikamaru and Temari's episode and the Naruto and Iruka scene. That's it.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, no, I can understand that. I think the comedy is what makes it for me, though, to be perfectly honest. But I can definitely see why most people don't like it, though. Now we're gonna go on to another fan favorite. It's the Sasuke Retrieval one. Now, what I'm about to say might give me some flack, but again, with the Tsunade Rescue Arc or the Tsunade Retrieval Arc, as a kid, I was just ready to get to the Naruto and Sasuke fight at the end of the arc. So don't hate me in saying that as a kid, I wasn't too invested in the other fights. But I do remember the second time I rewatched the arc, because I got the box set after I watched it on Toonami or whatever. I got the box set, rewatched the whole arc, and I remember like how like dumb I was for not being invested in these other fights before. So like right out of the gate, we got Naruto and Sasuke fight on the rooftop, which I did love. I loved every bit about that fight. I was like, oh yes, we're finally getting somewhere. We finally got the fight we've been all wanting. And it for what it is, that fight actually delivered. You know, for what they had to use as a teaser for the end of the arc, I thought they did a pretty solid job on the choreography in that fight.
I mean, this arc is pretty damn great. Like all the fights. I didn't have this opinion the first time I watched this arc, even though I was pretty young too. Like I always loved all of those fights, even the fights with characters I don't really care too much about, like Kiba and Choji. Mm-hmm. Those were solid fights, and also the build up for the Naruto vs Sasuke final fight with them fighting in the hospital rooftop first, and then we're having to wait till we see what actually happens when Chidori Rasengan clash. That was, I mean, everything that happened with Sasuke in that arc, it made sense after what he saw in Itachi's Tsukiyomi again, when Itachi, you know, told him he lacked hatred. Yeah. Everything in this arc, I mean, it's phenomenal. And one of the things that I like too is just probably one of the most comedic scenes when Rock Lee arrives and drinks sake and gets drunk and fights against Kimaru. I love that. That's a great scene, like... And that one actually is better in the anime. They do some extra stuff that's really funny. Mm-hmm. And this arc's I can't really point to any specific flaw in this arc. I think there's one specific moment that it drags a little bit, especially in the anime, which is when Jirobo uses that orb of earth to drain their chakra. They get stuck there for a while. That's a little slow, you know. That's the only part I think this arc drags a little bit, but that's pretty much the only minor issue I can find it, and it's not that big of a deal. Yeah,
like I said, like the first time around, again, I was just a kid. I was just ready to get the Naruto and Sasuke fight. That was when I was just like building towards for like the entire arc. So like, but when I rewatched it the second time around, I was totally invested in it. I just one of the things that I just remember like myself how I reacted the first time around as opposed to the second time. And I remember like it being 100% glued to the television watching these fights, especially the Shikamaru versus Tayuya fight. That one was like balls to the wall, like crazy. I
like the Kimimaru fight too against Neji. That one's pretty insane.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like no one would make fun of you if like the first time you saw this, no one would make fun of you if you really thought everyone was going to die. except for Naruto. Like, obviously, because Naruto's the main character. He's got some pretty good plot armor, but everybody else was fair game. I feel like at the time, like I don't think it was unreasonable to think that Choji and Neji were actually dead. You know,
that was actually Kishibero's plan. Like he wanted to kill those characters, but he chose not to in the end.
I'm kind of glad. Like I said, now like in Shippuden, I'm kind of indifferent towards Neji and Choji, but at the time I was like, bro, like don't kill off my boys now. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, so especially since Neji just had like a character shift, not too long ago. So it's like one of those things like, why do that? Even as a kid, I thought like, why make him go through this whole like character dynamic change just to kill him off, But yeah, like I said, even with fights with people who I don't really care too much about, like Kiba. And the villains too, like the Sound Four were actually pretty unique in their own right too. So I thought all their fights were pretty solid.
Yeah, and Kishimoto really made all their powers very interesting on how they would interact with the powers of the good characters, and it just worked very well.
Like
if you take a look at Neji versus Kidomaru, everything in that fight is specific for it to work against each other. There's so many different strategies they implement, and yeah, Kidomaru too is a really interesting character. In the moment the Sand siblings arrive, is a very hype moment. You're like, oh man, they're actually here. That's crazy.
The second
and Gaara saving Lee this time, with him having almost killed him before and cripple him. That's crazy.
I did. I'll tell you, as a kid, when I first saw that, I was like, bro, irony is so weird, isn't it? Like, this man almost killed him, and now here he is saving him. Yeah, I thought that was a great choice on Kishimoto's part, like having Lee be the one to have to be saved by Gaara. Like, I thought that was really good storytelling. And like you said, like whenever the second I saw the sand, bro, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. And like, and this goes back to like good storytelling, because it's one of those things where like, when you're watching in the anime, week by week, you spend a lot of time away from Gaara, so that when he shows back up and he's more calm and level-headed, it totally makes sense. Like, it's not like something that's out of the blue and kind of out of left field. It gives you time away from Gaara to be like, oh, you know what? Now he's gone through a really good character shift, and it makes sense. So yeah, and then obviously the Naruto and Sasuke fight totally delivered. One of the best fights, in my opinion, of the anime overall. I remember whenever it got done, I could rewatch it and reread it time and time again, and almost never get tired of it. Like, they dedicated so many frames to that fight. It was just solid storytelling. The way they, even in the anime and the manga, even when they had to do like any kind of like, backstory, if you want to count it as filler from the fight, I suppose. But it worked perfectly whenever they had to cut back to it. Because it gives you that deeper look into Sasuke's reasoning of why he's so desperate to kill Naruto, is to gain more power in order to kill Itachi. And even though like we are feeling bad for Naruto because he doesn't understand why Sasuke's wanting to do, but we do, though. We understand. So again, it's just really good storytelling within a fight that's so hyped up. Just like we've been saying, like there are moments that you just can't bomb. And like this is one of them. I feel like the build-up was really there, and they did a solid job with the choreography. The way they had them both cutting back to each other, like one person had the advantage at this time, then the other person had the advantage at the other time, and then it just went like almost dead even. And the ending, bro, like I'm telling you, man, it tugged on the heartstrings a little bit.
The final clash to everything leading up to that, Sasuke with a curse mark, Naruto with the nine tails. It's very nice. Yeah. Very, very nice. And yeah, the ending is pretty heartbreaking. Kakashi arriving there too late. You just feel the sadness. Starts to rain, and you can't even track Sasuke anymore. Yeah, everything is hopeless.
I thought they were soft ending the series when I first saw it. I was like, dude, this is the saddest thing I've ever seen. Like, what the heck? Because like you expect Naruto to win, when you first watch it or read it. You kind of expect Naruto to win, but I mean, I appreciate Kishimoto not going the typical, shonen route, like where the hero, wins. I think.
Yeah, and the way he wanted to tell the story, Sasuke had to win the fight. So yeah, it was just very interesting.
Yeah, and so you had to sleep on that for a while though. Like before the start of a new series, like, you had to sleep on that for a minute. So, but yeah, and then Shikamaru's moment at the hospital, man, where he just so overwhelmed.
Very good moment.
Yeah. And then the last thing I will leave on, because we didn't touch on it earlier, was the interesting moment between Kakashi and Sasuke at the tree.
Oh yeah, that's a very cool moment too.
Like it gave you it gave you more of a teaser on Kakashi's backstory, so without giving too much at the time, because that's not what this scene was supposed to convey, but it was supposed to give you a better understanding of his his side of things and try to look at Sasuke's perspective and try to help him out. So it was definitely a good moment. But so overall, I'd give this arc a solid 5. Like I don't really have much issues with it at all. Like you said earlier, I don't think there's really any moments where it drags. And even if it did, like it's very minimal. Like, you don't really even notice it because so much is happening.
I give it a 5 too. No questions about it.
Heck yeah. All right. So right on to another fan favorite, Pain's Assault. Now, when you talk about balls to the wall crazy, bro, like this is not an example of a long arc per se, but
it does have a decent length, I would say, but
it does, but not compared to like someone like the Sasuke Retrieval or anything, I suppose. But a lot happens like in this arc to make up for the episode count.
Yeah, the entire buildup of Pain being this god that's arriving in the village and wreaking havoc, killing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, the desperation we see, everybody scrambling, and then Naruto training Sage Mode, not really knowing what's happening. It's very desperate, and you're like, Naruto, you have to return.
Yeah.
Go back.
Like I said, like, Pain rolling up on the village like it's nothing, bro. Like, it's just another day for him. Like, I don't know, we were never really, before this, we never would have thought that the Akatsuki themselves would actually, because I guess Itachi and Kisame kind of did it covertly. They even said like, "Hey, we're not here to fight a full-scale battle," and yet here Pain is coming in, literally just no diff in the place,
doing that.
I mean,
I'm gonna do that.
So, I got Conan's there too, helping out, but still, like the point is that Pain literally rolled up on the Leaf Village like it was nothing and was killed. Like, and the fact that like we start to sympathize with Pain during his speech to Naruto. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, if Pain didn't just murder everyone we cared about, we would actually be on this like this guy's spitting, but like I say, he's rolling up and killing our favorite characters. Like I'm telling you, bro, when he killed Kakashi, I threw my manga book. I read it in the manga book the first time around, and I'm pretty sure I distinctly remember myself throwing the manga book. I was like, all right, well, I'm not watching this show anymore. Like, Kishimoto, you suck. I really was, bro. I had to wait 3 weeks or so whenever someone told me that he got brought back. I was like, you better not be lying, because I pick up that book and you're lying. I'm throwing that book right at you. But, yeah, like the stakes are high.
And just, everything happening is crazy, and then Pain just, casually destroys the Leaf Village.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're completely desperate. That's when Naruto arrives, and that shift to utter desperation to hope and excitement. And then he stomps the Asura path and starts to fight Pain. And that's one of the most climactic fights of the series. I'd say this is like the climax of the midway part of Naruto when he defeats Pain here. And everything that happens in the fights, he loses without the Nine Tails. Just with Sage Mode, he can't win. Then there's the Hinata Confession, which unfortunately doesn't lead to anything afterwards, but it's a nice scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then Six Tails going insane against Pain, and then Minato arriving, saving Naruto right before he takes the seal off the Nine Tails is also very climactic, because it's something you're not expecting, but it makes sense. Oh yeah, the fourth Hokage was the one who put him in there.
Yeah.
So it makes him to be there.
Yeah. And
then Naruto beats Pain for real this time, saying the words Jiraiya used to say, "Don't give up trying to make me give up."
Yeah.
While he Rasengan's Pain and stuff. It's very thematic as well.
And then Naruto's talk no jutsu for Nagato. Definitely.
A lot of people don't like that part of the arc.
I do.
With the Rin Tensei bringing everybody back. I also like it because it gives Naruto this sense that he really is a messiah. He brought people back to life by talking Nagato down.
Yeah, I agree. I do. I think I've noticed that people don't like that, but I mean, come on, man. I didn't want Kakashi to die. I'm okay with him sticking around. And that's one of the things. Like again, like I think to me personally, I think that his talking no jutsu with Nagato specifically is one of the more believable ones, because I mean, he is kind of, I wouldn't say he's a foil to Naruto, but he does have a lot of similarities to Naruto. in the way that like maybe
And
not.
it's more believable too in this situation because he actually beats Nagato before talking to Jutsu him.
Yeah.
Obito, for example, he kind of talks to Jutsu Obito midway through the fight, and because of that talk no Jutsu, Obito loses because his will wavers, and then he loses, and then Naruto brings him back. But like, he didn't make Nagato, just be a little bit concerned about his actions during the fight, so he wouldn't fight 100%.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting, and also the parallels between Naruto and Nagato, and then having Jiraiya as the teacher, being the prophecy that could either destroy or save the world. It's pretty interesting.
Well, so one thing I will say about myself is like I watch reaction videos a lot, right? And I do like to watch people's reaction to Naruto, like watching them Naruto for the first time. And whenever they get to that episode where he talked to Jutsu's Nagato, and Nagato like legit says the words like, "I think I shall believe in you after all, Naruto Uzumaki," and everyone's like, "What?" Like as if they were not expecting that whatsoever. And I think when you sell it that hard, when you make pain someone that when you make pain someone that you feel like would not be persuaded whatsoever, like when you make him doubt himself and like completely believe in Naruto's words to the point where he's willing to sacrifice himself to bring back everyone he just killed, I honestly think you sell it pretty good. So, yeah, I'm a fan of Naruto's talking to Jutsu to Nagato personally, and I think it works. I think the whole arc is, I don't know, it's a roller coaster of emotions, that's for sure. So,
yeah,
I think what they did to it, I think they sold every scene that was in there. I don't think there's a really low point in the arc, personally. I think it's
I agree.
I think it's all handled really well. So
I'd say Konohamaru's scene, like, that's unnecessary. Nobody cares about Konohamaru. Just give that fight to somebody else more important. More
I think at the time
him,
I was glad that he just didn't die. I guess like I didn't pay too much attention to it because that did kind of happen right after the fight with Kakashi. So I was like, bro, I couldn't care less right now. Leave me alone. So for all what it is, I'm gonna give this arc a 5. I think this is like peak Naruto also, like with the Sasuke Retrieval Arc.
Yeah. I give this arc a 5 as well.
Awesome. So now we're going to go on to the Kazekage Rescue Arc. They had a lot to build up to. That's for sure. Like this is, I mean, when you end on an arc that's, as beloved and hyped as the Sasuke Retrieval Arc, and you have to, pick up right back after with a new series, they definitely could have done worse. I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah, the main problem people have with this arc is that it's slow, and that's because of the anime and the way they adapted it, making it really, really slow.
Yeah.
But if you take the manga version, this arc's pretty good. Not the best arc of the series, but still, it's serviceable. There are a couple of issues with it. Mainly, Naruto is not very impactful in this arc. He feels like, a secondary character, which sometimes is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But this is the first arc of Naruto Shippuden, so he probably could have felt a little
need to
more.
Put him out of the gate as a problem to reckon with. Because I agree. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because I was rewatching a clip on, I think it was TikTok, on the Kazekage Rescue Arc where like Deidara almost laughs Naruto off as a joke. In a way, and I thought
that would be fine. Like if Naruto kind of proved him wrong, but the thing is, sure, Naruto kind of beats Deidara in the end, but Deidara had no arms, no chakra. He was, absolutely not in his best state, and he still escaped.
Well, I remember as a kid when I first watched the arc, I was like, and Deidara was saying stuff like, "Oh yeah, this Jinchuriki is nothing. Their problem is how to deal with Kakashi." And I'm thinking to myself like, okay, well, I like hearing that, but at the same time, like, bro, like, my boy's being disrespected. There ain't no way he's this weak. And so, like, I don't know. I hated the Naruto bad mouthing, bro. Like, I really did. I was like, bro, he just spent like 3 years trying to get stronger. He's got almost nothing to show for it. And
yeah,
I don't know.
On the other hand, I mean, Sakura and Chio versus Sasori, it's amazing.
Crazy.
One of the best fights in the series. And also, Gaara versus Deidara is a very good fight too.
For sure.
Kind of overlooked that fight, but it's a good fight.
I do think that like Gaara, that fight has the bad luck of being drawn into an arc where it's not the most favorite arc, because I do see that most people don't like this arc, and so like you said, that fight gets overlooked because of the arc that it's in. Feel like if it was like,
And that's the problem
you know,
with the
because
arc itself because of the manga. The manga was pretty good, but the anime kind of screwed it up a little bit.
because you can't really chalk it up to the characters because everyone loves Gaara, and I do see a lot of people like Datara, so it's like one of those things you can't really blame it on the characters. You kind of just have to blame it on the time it happened. So,
Yeah.
but like again, for the beginning arc, I think they did a pretty good job. You know, the fights, and then the reveal that Kakashi has a monkey Sharingan completely blew me out of the water.
That is pretty good, yeah.
I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I was
Also,
like,
the body double fights were pretty good too. People kind of overlooked them, but you know they were short and interesting. Especially the Kisame versus Guy fight, which sets up their rivalry even more. And Guy used the sixth gate for the first time. And yeah. Also in the end, even in the body double fights, Mitachi kind of gives a hint that Kakashi may have awakened the mangaka because he's like, "Oh, Kakashi, don't tell me you have that."
Yeah. I was like,
very
what?
cryptic way. Or what was he talking about? And then he whips out the mangaka in the end. That's a very nice scene,
bro. And like talking about like adapting like the anime from the manga, they did a pretty good job in that scene. I will say it took long for him to actually, like, I don't know. I feel like
that was the problem. Like they pursued Data for way too long. They fluffed it up real good.
So I will say this arc does suffer from some bad pacing, but for the most part,
also if you guys don't know the doppelganger fights, they're absurdly long in the anime. In the manga, they're like 3 pages long. They are probably the worst fights in the series in terms of choreography.
Are you talking about
Team
when
Guy just fighting themselves?
Oh my god, I hated that. Oh my god.
Team Guy fighting themselves, like that's a terrible fight in the anime because they're so long and pointless. And in the manga, they're 3 pages long.
And then
they don't occupy
oh my
space
god,
at all.
I remember watching it for the first time, specifically in the anime, and then they said like their answer to beating the doppelgangers was like stronger than I was the day before. But what does that even freaking mean? Are you kidding me? Like,
I mean, it's because they become stronger during the fight than Doppelganger was when they copy their bodies. But that's the same conclusion again to the manga. But still, it's way too long in the anime for no reason. Obviously, the reason is to make the episodes longer so we don't catch up to the manga.
Yeah.
But the pacing suffers a lot from it, and that's why people kind of don't like Sakura and Chio versus Sasori because the Doppelganger fights were in between that fight too.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like that fight drags on and it's a longer fight in the manga, but that's because there were so many forms and twists and turns in that fight, but it made sense. But then in the anime you have the doppelgangers fighting against themselves. It's pretty boring.
Like if it had just been like 4 episodes or 5 episodes straight of them fighting Sasori, I wouldn't have minded that. But it's the added filler fluff of Team Guy versus themselves. It just kind of just slows it down. So yeah, 100% I agree. 1 to 5, I give this arc a 3. It's not too bad, it's not too great, but I think it's like right in the middle for me.
I'll give it a 3.5. It's pretty good. I rewatch it anyway.
It's definitely,
especially the manga, but not the anime so much, but still.
It's definitely enjoyable for me. I don't rewatch it with a bad taste in my mouth, so it is pretty good. All right, so now we are at the 4th War Climax, as it says in the picture, but this is pretty much when Madara shows up to right before Kaguya shows up. So all of that in one arc. I mean, but to be honest with you, despite how big this arc is, I have little to say about it. If only because there's stuff that's already been said before.
It's about 100 chapters long, this section of the story. And I have to be honest, I love this part of the story so much.
Oh, for sure. Like, I do too. Like, there's really not... like, I don't... Personally, to me, at least in the manga, maybe in the anime too, I don't think there's many...
Yeah, obviously, you don't count the filler parts of the
God,
anime.
No, please don't do that. Yeah.
But, I mean... Madara, everything. I mean, Madara's my favorite Naruto character, so that's when he is in the story. Mm-hmm. So I love everything with him. I mean, not the end result of that, but everything surrounding Madara, the backstory with Hashirama, the fight against the 5 Kage is so thematically rich.
The 2 meteors.
Also, even 2 meteors.
Jesus,
doesn't remember
bro.
that?
There ain't no way my jaw was not up, bro. My jaw was down. I'm like, what did he just do? Like, did he just destroy the whole planet when he just did that? Oh yeah, it was crazy. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
The problems I see with this, because I love pretty much everything, I think the Obito thing gets a little too much in the end of it with Kakashi. Sure, I love Kakashi. I'm not the biggest Obito fan, but I think the character's fine. But I just think they get, a little overbearing with Obito and Kakashi's backstory here and there. And I don't like Kabuto either. I think Orochimaru should have been the villain there instead of Kabuto, but it's alright. It's not terrible, I'd say. But the rest of this arc, it's all around great.
Yeah, on the Obito and Kakashi section, I can agree because especially in the anime, they kept cutting back to their backstories 100 times, and I'm like, just to make a half episode about the stuff that we've already seen. I'm like, bro, like why? I don't understand. But
That's terrible. But even in the manga, it gets a little slow at times with their backstory and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I can agree. It's one of those things where it's like, I think the second they unmasked him, I feel like they should have just kept going forward with it and not have to worry about it. Because I feel like that, like, I do feel like all of that.
You get it, like yeah, you understand.
I mean, like, and we did it pretty good. They did it in a clever way of unmasking him and this and that, and then they should have just been like that. Like their fight happens, then Obito comes back out to the from the real world, from the common dimension, and all the character interactions do is solid. As much as it does like leave me scratching my head a little bit with some moments, specifically like the Hokage coming back. I won't lie, when I first said it,
that was very out of Kishiberu's rear end. Oh, we have a mask here, we can bring them back.
Yeah,
it should have been set up beforehand a little bit better if he wanted to do that. And I understand you complaining about that and people don't liking that, but what we got from the 4 Hokage coming back is so rich.
Oh, for sure,
and great
like,
that
no,
I don't
get me
mind.
Wrong. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I just one of those things, like if it was built up, it would have been a lot better for me to be sold on it.
Also, Neji's death is not great.
I wish I could be sad about it. I will say when I first saw it, I was like, "What?" I was more like I was sad about it, but it's more like one of those things. Like if I had to explain it in a reaction, it'd have been like, "Well, that sucks." like
yeah, it's because he hadn't been relevant for so long, and there was no setup to Neji dying whatsoever, and the way he died was, it felt really pathetic.
Yeah, how
he died.
If it had been Shikamaru, I would have lost it.
And he almost died too when the Divine Tree came out. Like he was dying.
Yeah,
I thought for a second he was gonna die, but he didn't.
I would have thrown my manga book.
There are some flaws with this section of the story, and you could consider them big or small depending on what you think makes for good writing. But I think overall this is an amazing section of the Naruto series.
Oh, definitely. And like I said, there are some questionable decisions on whether or not, like, on Kishimoto's part. Specifically the decision to kind of erase the premise of Naruto kind of thing, where he makes Naruto and Sasuke the reincarnates of Indra and Ashura.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
I thought that was really weird. I mean, I was already borderline like on disbelief when he had the Sage and Six Path show up, which I don't mind per se. I don't think it's completely out of the blue, since he kind of was being built up a bit here and there. But him kind of just making it seem like Naruto and Sasuke are like the reincarnates of his children was completely left field for me. I gotta be honest with you, I put my manga book down about it. I was like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Hey, but if that was the only thing they did, it would be fine, I suppose. But it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. I mean,
but at least Madara versus Guy was great.
I was just about to say that too. Like in between that though, like we have like a Guy doing everything he can to stall for time. I thought, and that's what I'm saying. Like Guy is literally sacrificing himself just for some time. That's all, and it delivered, bro. Like I thought it was great.
Sure, Guy should have died. He should have died after the fight.
But I'm okay with him sticking around.
It was a great fight.
I'm okay with him sticking around. I get why people think he should have died, but I don't know. It's Guy. I mean, come on. Like, I'm just saying. Like, I think he deserves a good life. I'm just saying. But yeah, no. Everything else after that was really solid. I thought the Obito getting involved was pretty good. For what he could get involved in. So, and then we did say it was right before Kaguya appears, and unfortunately, this arc
Yeah,
is a
like I
bad
suppose.
taste.
I suppose this arc ends when Madara casts the Infinite Tsukuyomis and succeeds.
Yeah.
And that's when actually the Naruto story ends, because the Naruto and Sasuke and everybody else, they are still under Infinite Tsukuyomi.
Yeah.
So the Boruto series isn't canon. Yeah, that's it.
Answer our prayers.
I give a 5 to this arc, to be honest.
A 5? Yeah.
Yeah.
I could agree with that. I don't think I could really. I'd be a bit dishonest with myself if I said anything below a 5. So, yeah. So now we're going on to the Tenchi Bridge, or the Orochimaru's hideout, whatever you want to call it. Pretty much right after the Kazekage Rescue Arc.
Yep.
And this one, I gotta be honest with you, this one does feel like it drags a bit more than the others.
Yeah, but also that's mostly because of the anime. The manga is definitely not slow paced, I'd say.
No, it's not.
But I don't like this arc.
You go ahead.
I don't like Sai. I think he's a very pointless character. He works for the arc. He introduces some mystery, but then they don't do anything else with the character for the rest of the series. I guess he did have a little bit of development in the Five Figure Summit, but he feels undercooked the entire way. Yamato is also a pretty damn boring character. Kind of, like a cardboard cutout.
Yeah.
And he does have wood style, which is kind of cool. And that's the only thing the character has going for him.
I think the premise of Yamato was interesting, but they didn't deliver as much as they should have.
Like with the entire Orochimaru having, implanted Hashirama cells in backstory, that's an interesting premise. But character's boring. He doesn't have an arc in the series. He's just like there.
Yeah.
I do like the 4 Tails versus Orochimaru fights. It's terrifying to see Naruto being taken over like that. First time you see, like, okay, this is insane. And it's a cool fight. And then when we get to the actual hideout, the Sasuke scene, it's fine. I like it. But Sasuke really acts out of character when he was about to Kirin Team 7 and kill all of them.
Yeah, I've heard mixed reviews on how people can justify that, and it's like one of those things like
my headcanon is that Sasuke was pretending to want to kill them so that Orochimaru would arrive and stop him from doing that, so that he would have like an excuse to leave.
Yeah.
And not put Team 7 in danger. I don't think that's what Kishimoto intended, but that's how I choose to interpret it, so that Sasuke's character isn't completely broken before he even starts Naruto Shippuden.
Yeah.
I don't like this arc. That's it.
I mean, yeah, I do think that the character interactions is interesting for what it is. I agree with you on the side. And Yamato, I think they were more or less throwaway characters. I thought they could have been. Yamato specifically, I don't like Sai like whatsoever. I gotta be honest with you. I don't think I've ever really liked him. I think I tried to like him, but there was nothing really interesting about him to me.
I don't like the premise of the character. Oh, I don't have emotions. I have to find them.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of.
I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah. But everything else, I thought it was okay for what they had to deliver on, because this was a big moment. This is like the first time you've seen Sasuke in years. Yeah,
that's why I don't like this arc, because that part doesn't deliver it for me. Sure, he is really powerful, but the fight feels so lackluster.
Well, no, for sure.
Like,
No, for sure. Like, I don't mean like it delivered on the fight itself. I think for me, again, as a Sasuke fan, I think it delivered showcasing how strong he is. Without showing, without having to show us too much before we needed to.
But then. The main problem I think I have with this arc is that Sasuke kind of backtracks his entire character development, because the whole thing in the Valley of the End fight was Sasuke didn't go through with killing Naruto because he didn't want to do what Itachi told him to. He didn't want to play to his rhythm. And then in the Tenchi Bridge Arc, all of a sudden he's like, I mean, I didn't kill you on a whim, but now I'll kill you on a whim. Like, what?
I guess, like, again, like,
no.
one thing I do think the way you could probably justify that is he was trying to convince Naruto through words like, hey, like, I don't really care about our bond.
Stay away.
Yeah, stay away. Like, that's the only thing I can think of, because I do agree, like, it doesn't seem like the Sasuke, especially like going forward, the little subtle hints that he gives in the anime, like whenever him and Suigetsu are in the Great Naruto Bridge and like Sasuke just stares at it.
He kind of stares at it. Yeah.
Like, you can kind of tell something's there, but yeah.
So yeah, that's a good, way to look at it. Oh, Sasuke's trying to make Naruto go away with his words,
Yeah.
so that Naruto won't interfere anymore, even though he doesn't really believe them.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't think that was Kishimoto's intention. I think when he wrote that, he actually meant Sasuke to kill them, and Orochimaru saved them.
I will say
I don't like.
I will say I do like the interaction between Sasuke and Kurama. I thought that was pretty interesting for what it was.
That's very interesting. I agree. I like that.
Especially when Kurama kind of name drops Madara for the first time.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, who is this guy?" And I kind of like Sasuke's response. Is like, "Oh yeah, I never heard of him. Am I supposed to care?" And then one thing that me and you could probably talk about in a separate video later on is Kurama giving that little bone-chilling speech to Sasuke, like, "Hey, don't kill Naruto, because if you do, you're gonna regret it." Like, I never knew what that was for, but it definitely one of those things. Is like when I first heard it, I was like, "Ooh, man." And so yeah, for what it is, I think this arc is okay. It's definitely not my favorite, and there are definitely a lot of low points where it kind of just drags, in my opinion. Even if I'm reading the manga, and I know the manga isn't as bad for sure, but anime, it's like, yeah. I could, again, I better pack a lunch.
It drags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give it a 3. I think it's okay. I think it does well enough.
I'll give it a 2.5.
I figured you're gonna get. I figured you're gonna give it that one. I could almost.
I was tempted on giving it a 2, but there are some good moments, and it's not the worst thing in the world. So 2.5.
Yeah. So now we're gonna go to Kaguya Appears. This is like you probably could guess. It's right when Zetsu stabs
Kaguya Appears.
Yeah. Zetsu stabs Madara. Unfortunately, brought up all the way to the final fight between Naruto and Sasuke. Disregarding that sin of a moment at the beginning of this arc. I don't know. I'm indecisive about how I feel about Kaguya. I want to say I'm indifferent, but I don't think I could say that and be honest with myself.
I want to make a video about this entire Kaguya thing that I've been working for a while. It's going to be like a pretty damn long, 2-hour-long video. But I hate everything about this part of the story. The backstab with Black Zetsu, Kaguya's character, the new lore stuff that's introduced. I guess you could say that some of the lore was introduced before that, which is true. It was introduced 20 or so chapters before, but I don't like that at all.
I don't either. It was a very bad example of an exposition dump that I just did not agree with. I thought it was... It almost came out of left field. Like I said, there's some kind of build up to it, but there's not enough for what it's supposed to represent.
I mean, there is some kind of build up for Kaguya being a thing in the verse, but for her to show up physically and be the final villain, there's no build up whatsoever. There's no build up whatsoever for Black Zetsu being this mastermind that controlled shinobi history and the events to happen the way they did to bring Kaguya back, retconning the entire story pretty much.
Yeah.
And it destroyed Madara's character for no reason.
I really wonder what Kishimoto's thought process was when writing that. Like, oh yeah, Madara's a beloved character. Like, how is this gonna work?
Kishimoto's thought process was, I have to obey Shonen Jump because they're, the overlords, and I have to give villains to the sequel. So that's it.
I do feel bad. There's nothing we could say that hasn't been said before about this specific moment. But so we'll kind of move on from this one. But for what it's worth, though, like, aside from all that, I do think that like seeing Team 7 fight again with each other, as a team was solid for what it was. I know they, not all team members were fighting together at the same time, but at the end of the fight, I thought it was pretty good. I thought Kaguya being a dimension hopper was kind of unique for what it was. I thought that Obito being able to get involved in some kind of way, having to bring Sasuke, like all that kind of stuff was actually pretty.
Obito's death, it does have some emotional resonance.
Mm-hmm.
Kakashi getting the dual Mangekyo too, but everything that has to do with that fight has nothing to do with Kaguya.
Yeah. Now,
so imagine how much better that would have been if you were actually interested in the villain they were fighting against.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure, they've been way better. Now, one thing I will say, is that one thing is that if I'm watching the anime, Obito's death, I will say that if you're watching it, they do play the original Naruto music during his death, which I thought was very fitting for someone who, started a lot of the problems in the.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, they well, it's like
I've only watched. I only watched that part of the anime once when it came out. I never watched it again.
Yeah, well, it's like in a different version of the original Sadness and Sorrow track from the original Naruto. I thought it was pretty fitting. But then going on to the DMS, as much as I love that moment, bro, I will say that kind of broke my brain when I first read it. I was like, I don't really.
I mean, yeah, it makes no sense if you actually analyze things, but I always get chills when you hear Obito saying you were known as Kakashi of the Sharingan, and then you see Kakashi's duel.
Yeah. Monkey Sharingan.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But Kaguya's powers, the dimension hopping thing is kind of interesting because it does change the terrain a little bit. But that's like the only thing she has that's mildly interesting.
Yeah.
Her other powers are so damn boring and stale, like the bone ash thing. Okay, I got hit with a bone and I die. Great. The chakra hands, they're so generic.
Yeah.
And Kage is just a terrible villain in every single regard.
Yeah, the fact that she barely had a personality did not help either. Gotta be honest with you. Like, she was kind of crazy, and mainly her personality was Black Zetsu, unfortunately. So, but going on to the Naruto and Sasuke fight, man, I'm telling you, I love it.
Oh, we're putting them together with this arc?
Yeah, we're just gonna, because the way they had it was just Kaguya appears into Naruto and Sasuke fighting. But I like it. I love this arc. But this fight, I liked it a lot more than I thought it was going to. The only thing I will say that I wish that was in it was more hand to hand on the ground fighting. I know they did kind of do it at the end too, but I'm talking like fast pace, ninjutsu, taijutsu kind of thing, like on the ground but like right before they went into their respective avatars, and they did all these matches.
And I guess they actually included some scenes with that in the anime, so the fight was better than the anime, because in the manga it was pretty rushed. They wanted Kishiberu to win at chapter 700 for whatever reason, so the fight was kind of rushed in the manga. It's not a bad fight. I don't think I would say I love this fight, but there are some very nice moments, like Sasuke getting the chakra from the tail beasts in the Susanoo from the Chibaku Tensei planetoids. And the final clash with Indra's arrow and the Rasen Shuriken, and then also the final shot with them missing their arms, a pretty great shot.
I was completely blew my mind, bro. I was like, what in the world just happened to them? But no, like Naruto finally getting to the Sasuke, and then something that doesn't really get talked about a whole lot is finally seeing Sasuke's perspective, because we never really get Sasuke's point of view on things, and so his inner monologue, to how he's always felt about Naruto and Team 7 overall, it really does. It's a good moment for me. I really, really love that moment, personally to me. Because Sasuke's always been like a very introverted person, so you never really know what he's thinking. So finally being able to see that perspective from him was very interesting for me. So, I like this arc for what it has, that's worth liking. If I had to be honest with you, the only sections that really make this arc great for me is the DMS Kakashi stuff, and then the Naruto and Sasuke sections. But for me, it lands a 4 for me because of that. I don't really count Kaguya's section too much when I consider this arc.
Yeah, I would give it a 1, like the lowest grade. But the Naruto and Sasuke fights and the final moments in that fight is pretty good. So I'll give it a 2.
All right, saved it just by a mile, just barely. So going from the last arc per se to the first arc, the Land of Waves, and man, I don't know. I don't see how anybody could hate this arc. I don't think I've ever found anybody who does hate this arc, but if I ever do, they're getting rocked. So.
It's a very solid arc that introduces the series, and it sets up your expectations of what it's going to be about and like. The tone is set up. There's a lot of comic relief the way Naruto does, but there's a lot of serious and intense emotional moments, especially with Naruto talking to Jutsu Zabuza, the demon of the mist, and then he cries, and you see that, oh, okay, he wasn't just using Haku as a tool after all. He had something inside of him.
Yeah, and I feel like there was build up enough, like with Zabuza being the main villain, you know, to where, like, as unrealistic as it might have seemed at first, like, it does work, you know. By the end of by the time Naruto taught no Jutsu Zabuza, it does work. You know, it's a believable talk no Jutsu, and like, especially like, again, it's the first time you hear Naruto speak like this, so it's like, it's digging into your soul for the first time.
Yeah, and he didn't even mean to talk no Jutsu Zabuza. He just like said what he was thinking.
Yeah.
And Zabuza really took that to heart.
Yeah, and I was like, bro, it's a tough one to watch sometimes. I'm not gonna lie to you. Zabuza and Haku are memorable villains, 100%. Like, they are definitely some of my favorite characters. Unfortunately, they don't get, you know, talked about too much, which I get. They're in terms of power, they're basic villains at the start, but at the same time, like, they are so layered, I feel like, for what they are. And it makes it even better when they do get brought back and they at least discuss Naruto and whatnot. So, like you said, it sets up the world, it sets up the characters we all know and love, which I think it does a pretty good job. You know, it sets up Naruto, Sasuke, Kakashi, Sakura, Iruka. The beginning episodes, you know, with Iruka and his moment with Naruto, was definitely, especially when we watch it, you know, it definitely cements like their relationship and the foundation for the rest of the series. So, I think for what this arc tried to do, like, I think that there aren't really any low points, in this arc. I think all the fights, what they could be, are solid, because obviously the animation in both the manga and the anime wasn't, you know, top notch by any means. But for what they are, they were pretty solid, especially for the time. So.
The manga was, I'd say, was pretty good. Obviously, Kishimoto hadn't really gotten to his peak potential yet, but the anime certainly had, you know, some subpar animation here and there in this arc.
If I had to pick a highlight aside from the talk no Jutsu in this arc, it would definitely be the lightning blade from Kakashi.
Oh yeah, that's really cool.
I say this all the time, but the second I saw that jutsu, I was like, okay, that man's my favorite character, 100%. Like, that's a jutsu right there. So yeah, great arc. I love it. I'd probably give it a 5. I know that might shock some people, but for the premise of it, without this arc, a lot would not happen. And I think for this, because personally to me, I know a lot of people say this, but the first arc can make or break a series. And I think that's
true, yeah.
This arc did a solid job for what it had to do. I mean,
I'll give this arc a solid 4. You know,
I'm
pretty good.
I'm glad you said it, because honestly, man, without this arc, Naruto wouldn't have been a big 3. I'm just saying, there's a really good chance that Naruto would not be one of the big 3 animes. So we got to thank this arc for what it is.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go on to the Chunin exams, and when I say Chunin exams, I'm combining the actual Chunin exams with the Konoha invasion. So just to kind of make it,
yeah, because they are one arc in the same. Because, you know, there's no end point or climax to the Chunin exams. It's the Konoha Crush arc that's the climax for the Chunin exams. So they're one arc.
Yeah. So bro, like, this was Naruto at its height. I'm not kidding around, especially when I was watching it for the first time. Like the Land of Waves did a really good job setting it up, but the Chunin exams, like, was, I don't know, like, everyone at my school was hyped when this arc started, like, setting off, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not kidding around. Like, anything from, like, the opening music for the anime openings or whatever.
Haruka Kanata. Yeah.
I'm like, bro, like,
great opening.
Everyone was about this arc, bro. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. So, like, I don't know, it does a really good job world building, you know, by extension of the Land of Waves, because we didn't have much to work with as far as world building in the Land of Waves arc, but this one kind of sets it up a little bit better, because now there's more villages, You get more ninjas from other villages. You get more of how the ninja ranks work, how the ninjas climb the ranks. New jutsu, new characters that they introduced.
And
So
just the creative ways Kishimoto does to like show how they do those things with the exams. Like first you have a written exam, then the Force of Death, and the matches. Like everything is so well thought out, and all the new characters are interesting, and they get decent focus. Even characters that are not pretty big deals in the verse, they get some decent development. Like Zaku, for example, all of a sudden, like he had some really interesting things that happened to him. And it's a very nice arc, and obviously we're not even talking about fights like Rock Lee versus Gaara, which are staples of the series. And
oh my lord,
Hiruzen versus Orochimaru, Naruto versus Gaara, Sasuke versus Gaara. Those are like amazing, awesome fights.
I will say that
people kind of
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that the final fight of this arc, which is Naruto versus Gaara, is one of the best fights in the series. People tend to kind of overlook that fight for some reason. I guess it's because it's happening with the Chunin exam stuff, with Hiruzen versus Orochimaru, but that fight's so well done, and the Takenjutsu Naruto does on Gaara is very interesting and believable, because they are pretty much the same person, but Naruto hasn't been alone forever. He got friends along the way. Gaara had nothing. And also Gaara's childhood was tougher because people were actually trying to kill him.
Yeah.
But everything is interesting here. The entire build-up for Gaara, this menace for society that wanted to kill people because he wanted to feel alive. And then he meets Naruto and changes. It's awesome.
Yeah. Like everything from start to finish, this arc is like really solid because, at least for me, because like you said, like for one thing, new characters get introduced. You get Dosu, sorry. Dosu was the throwaway character. I thought he should have been in the character of the show a little bit more than he was. I thought he was a pretty interesting character. But you got Gaara, Kabuto, Jiraiya, Orochimaru. Like, you have all these new characters that are pretty much staples for the rest of the series that, like, really... Rock Lee.
Neji and Lee,
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's so... Like I said, there wasn't, to me, a low point in this arc. Maybe the Force of Death with a couple of moments, but even
I'd say the only moment that kind of drags in this arc is that moment where Naruto is fighting against the Rain Village ninjas in the very end of the Force of Death.
Yeah,
but that's it's longer in the anime. Like, it's really short in the manga. They just get the scrolls quickly and that's it.
Yeah.
But like, other than that, I don't think this drags at all. I mean, also the training time in the anime is dragged out, but it's actually very interesting. The things that are happening there. Sure, it's not the most action-packed, portion of the series, but the entire political thing happening there with the Saiyan and the Sound and the Leaf Village and all the training they have to go through, the Naruto mastering the Nine Tails, it's very interesting, even though there are no massive fights in there.
Yeah. Well, I think this also does do a pretty good job of cementing more of Naruto and Sasuke's relationship. Because it is really at this point where Sasuke starts to really look at Naruto like, oh, this kid's got something, Like, I need to...
When they fight against Orochimaru in the Forest of Death, and Naruto calls him a chicken because Sasuke called him a chicken before.
It's like great character moment, bro. Like, I think this is where Sasuke starts to really... And like even Orochimaru made a comment about like, oh, I think Naruto is starting to hold a certain amount of influence over Sasuke to the point where like he's pretty much like altering Sasuke's decision making.
Yeah, because I mean, if he really wanted to kill Itachi above anything else, he wouldn't risk his life against an enemy he clearly has no chance of beating.
Yeah. So again. And then that moment where Sasuke's like, "You're one of the ones I want to fight the most." It's like, it really cements Naruto and Sasuke's relationship even further in this arc, which is something I definitely appreciated.
There's so many good moments. Also, like the first time we see the curse mark in action, when we see a brief flashback / dream sequence for Sasuke and him being, very guilty about what happened to the Uchiha clan, and then the curse mark erupts and he destroys Zaku.
Yeah, it's so great.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah. Man, like I said, like everything else, man, from the fights, like I said, Rock Lee versus Gaara, Shikamaru versus Temari, like I said, Gaara versus...
They're in the Raider fight.
Yeah, Gaara versus Naruto, Sasuke versus Gaara, Here's bro. Like, there's so many things I could say about this. I could go on forever, but like, this arc was like Naruto at its best. I feel like because there's so much hype that goes on to this arc because a lot of what happens in this arc cements a lot of what happens in the series. Like I said earlier, like the beginning of or the mid Shippuden arcs of the Jiraiya and the Itachi sections, like that like cements the rest of Shippuden. But this arc like pretty much sets the foundation for what's gonna happen for majority of Shippuden, if not all of Shippuden. So, solid arc. I don't really think I have any problems with it at all. I think I give it a 5.
Yeah, 5, easy 5.
Yeah. So now we'll go on to the Akatsuki Suppression Arc, which is the Kakazu and Hidan arc. Right out of the gate, I don't think I have any problems with this one. I don't think there's a low point in this arc, personally. I don't think Go ahead.
I disagree. I think there's one low point. The ending. Because the way Kakazu gets defeated by Naruto feels so easy and convenient. It doesn't feel like Naruto had to work too hard for the victory there. Sure, he had to train the Rasen Shuriken, but the fight itself felt kind of lackluster. Naruto used 4 shadow clones and was able to distract Kakazu. This guy that fought Hashirama. That's the worst part of the arc for me. But other than that, it's a fine arc. I wouldn't say there's like any major great moments in this arc. There are a couple of very good ones, like Asuma's death and the way Shikamaru beats Hidan by tossing the cigarette and exploding him. But I have a problem with the ending of this arc. That's what kind of holds it back for me.
I do agree with what you're saying. Because like I do remember myself thinking like, oh, that's kind of predictable. Naruto uses clones, which I get. I'm not taking away from it, specifically because it is Naruto's signature jutsu to some extent. Like, so like I get it, but like you said, I mean, if anything, if it helps, if it's any consolation, Kakashi's the one that finishes him off anyway. So but
Yeah.
No, like I said, I think it's really good. I think this arc. Aside from that, yeah, this arc doesn't have any really low point. It does feel like it drags a bit, but that's only because the arc, like, I feel like this arc takes a while to finish, but that's because, their opponents are just that, overpowered or not.
And there's a training arc in this arc, so it will feel a little slower because training arcs usually don't feel as fast paced.
Yeah. I think this arc's pretty good though. Like I think the fights are really good. Like I said, the Asuma and Shikamaru versus Hidan fight was decent enough for what it is. It's one of those things like Asuma's death. I gotta be honest with you, like it's one of those things that you don't realize how cool a character kind of is until he's dead. Like, because I
guess yeah. The problem with Asuma is that we never really got to know him very well before this arc. So when he dies, we're like, oh, that's kind of sad. He was gonna have a kid and all, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, well, it's like when I look back at Asuma, I was like, nah, he was a chill dude. Like, I wish we could have kept him around a little more. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those, like, not indifferent, but it's like, kind of like Neji's death. It's like, oh, well, dang, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But a great character moment for Shikamaru, though, like 100%. And
yeah, Shikamaru's definitely the best character in this arc.
By far. And the fact that he even got his own, like, theme song, I guess, with Closer was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And I think like Shikamaru is the only character in the Konoha 12 outside of Naruto and Sasuke that got satisfactory development in Naruto Shippuden. The other characters were pretty much forgotten.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even Sakura, who's a main character, doesn't get
in
my opinion, doesn't get.
She did have the Sasori fight, but then nothing else.
Yeah, nothing else really happened. So. With the Kakashi getting involved too, I thought was even better. I thought him like stepping up to kind of like be their team leader for for them helping them avenge Asuma was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I do hate about this arc, gotta be honest with you, is that why are Ino and Choji even there? Like, I gotta be honest, I was so annoyed. I'm sorry, I don't have anything good to say about them. Like, I get it.
They should have been given like better things to do, more useful things to do to participate in the fight. They just feel like they're there because they kind of have to be there.
Yeah, like
Kakashi and Shikamaru do everything in the fight.
that's what I'm saying. Like it might as well just be Shikamaru and Kakashi. They might as well just like bail. I don't know. I don't know. But I digress. But no, this arc's solid. I love it. I love just about everything about it. 1 to 5, I give it a 4.5.
I'll give this one a 3. It's not my favorite, but I don't hate anything in it. Like I don't dislike anything. I just don't think there are like major epic great moments in this section of the story, and I don't like the ending of it.
I give it a 4.5 just because it's Kakashi and Shikamaru are in my top 5 favorite characters, so seeing them together specifically was pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, yeah.
So now the last one we have is the Itachi Pursuit arc, and this one's pretty good. Actually, I like a lot. We get to see more Sasuke in this, and that right after the Tenchi Bridge, and
yeah, man, this is an arc that Sasuke's a main character.
Pretty much.
Naruto's actually not very present in this arc that much. Like he's there, sure, but he definitely feels like a secondary character.
I'm about to say he's kind of like sidelined a little bit.
Yeah, Sasuke shafts Orochimaru real hard, destroys him, gets his power. I like that fight a lot.
I gotta lie to you, like Sasuke's speech to Orochimaru was one of my favorites. I'm not gonna lie, because he just roasted Orochimaru's entire life, bro. Like his
like
opening,
you're kind of pathetic. Look at you.
Yeah. Well, Sasuke's opening lines like, "I'm stronger than you now." So at this point, I don't see the need to just hand over my body. I'm like, he's about to go to town on this man. And then his line.
And the way that the fight unfolds in such a humiliating way, it's amazing to see.
I will say that it was a little bit anticlimactic, but I understand the situation that it was in because Orochimaru was like at death's door essentially. So like I understand. I just because I knew that was gonna build up to a fight with them eventually, because I know Sasuke wasn't just gonna let Orochimaru just take his body, but I was hoping for a bit more than what we got, but I understand though. So, but
I'm pretty fine with that. Like I like that the way it was.
I know. I wish like with it being because Orochimaru is a fan favorite, villain, and Sasuke's a fan favorite character. To me, I just felt like it'd have been cool to see them go at each other like full force. No, the rest of this arc is really good though. Sasuke recruiting their.
I like the way he goes and collects Team Heavy. Though, like, Suigetsu, Juko, and Karin are definitely not my favorite characters in the world. Like, I don't care too much for them. But I like to see Sasuke gathering this new team and just going after the mission. It explores the world a little bit more. You get to see some places. And also, Heavy Sasuke is the coolest character in fiction.
Yeah.
Just his demeanor, everything he does. I do feel like... It just feels... nice.
I do feel like Heavy Sasuke is definitely my favorite version of Sasuke, just because I feel like he's, like you said, he's level-headed, he's cool, like he has a moral code of his own. Like he's not necessarily a good guy, but he's definitely not evil. Like he definitely has a code of his own, which I like about Sasuke. That's what I've always liked about Sasuke. Like he's still holding on to principles from the Leaf Village, but in his own way.
Yeah.
So, and then his fight with Adara. Definitely one of my most favorite fights by far.
That fight's so great. I mean, it's one of the best fights in the series. It's one of probably the most tactical fight in the series. Like, if you don't count maybe Shikamaru versus Tayuya and Shikamaru versus Temari, I think this is the most, high IQ fight in the series, and you can even make an argument for it being the most intelligent, strategic fight in Naruto.
Well, especially when Sasuke breaks it all down too. Like at the end of the fight, he's like, "Oh yeah, I did this because of that, and this was all my hypothesis the entire time." So, yeah.
And the way their powers interact is so interesting. The lightning style and the explosives, and how Sasuke plays off of that by diffusing the mine with his sword, and then pretending he just tossed the sword to get a foothold to jump up and cut the bird eater was flying on, and just having that as a pretext to say, "No, I really didn't know anything," but actually he did. It was very well
I wish
thought
we would
out.
have saw that more of that Sasuke throughout the series. Like there was definitely some like versions of it throughout the series, but like not to that extent. You know, not on
Yeah,
that
I'd
level.
say that the Danzo fight, he was very tactical in that fight. The Itachi fight as well, but Deidara is definitely the peak of Sasuke's strategic prowess.
And I mean, as some people might find Data annoying, but I thought he was a pretty interesting character for what he was. You know,
Deidara is literally my favorite Akatsuki member. I just think his entire shtick with art is very interesting. He's not the deepest character in the world, but I find him interesting regardless because he sees Itachi as this paragon of beauty and art, and he can't accept that somebody will have art better than his, and Itachi's not even trying, so he hates the Uchiha clan and the Sharingan for that.
Yeah.
So it's very poetic because he thinks, as he's dying with C0, that his art prevailed, but no, the Sharingan still beat him in the end.
Yep.
He's destined to lose because he can't see that there is art other than his own in the world. He couldn't even see that back with Sasori because he thought Sasori's ideas of what art was were completely wrong because for Sasori, art should be eternal, and for Deidara, it's a glimpse, an explosion, something that exists for a brief second, but it's very intense.
Yeah.
I like Deidara a lot.
I do too. I think he's a good contrast to the rest of some of the more deep Akatsuki members. Like I do love the deeper like character Akatsuki members, like 100%. But I do think sort of like for Data being more the outgoing, you know, extroverted Akatsuki members, I think he's a really good character. And his rage quit moment was kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie to you, but like it was a terrifying moment, bro. He freaking DC'd like a boss, bro. Like I ain't gonna lie to you. So this arc is pretty solid.
And we also see the revelation of Toby being quote unquote Mater Uchiha.
Yeah.
In the end of this arc, that's a really nice scene. Like it's a great scene.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I was like, oh, we thought we were getting rid of this guy. Like, nope. And then like the ending shot with his Sharingan was like, ooh, that was great. Yeah, it was good.
And the lightning in the background.
It was great. This arc is pretty good. It's not as long as some of the other arcs, but for what we got with it, though, it was pretty good. Because of the length, I'd probably give it a 3.5, maybe a 4 if I'm pushing it a little bit. Just because like the Sasuke and Deidara fight definitely like puts it like for the majority of the score for me. But it's just because not much happens aside from that makes it worth, you know, a bigger number.
Mm-hmm. I really like this arc, the entire thing, Sasuke gathering a team and then the fight against Itachi. I'll give this arc a solid 4.5.
Dang, okay. All right, I could respect that. So now that's the end of the arcs. So now we come to the final decision making. So Daigo, you want to go first? What do you think my favorite arc?
I think, okay, by what you said, that your favorite arc is gonna be the Chunin Exams.
Yes, it's gonna be the Chunin Exam.
Yeah, I'm right. Okay.
Yeah. If I had to take a guess, I'd say 5 Kage Summit is your favorite arc.
Nope.
Oh, what? Okay. One more guess.
I mean, really like the 5 Kage Sub. Not my favorite. What's your other guess?
Oh God, please help me. Sasuke Retrieval.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Sasuke Retrieval.
I knew it was gonna be someone like a arc that was pretty much Sasuke prevalent. I was thinking that the 5 Kage Summit was a pretty good arc, and I was like, I guarantee.
Yeah, I give a 4.5 to the 5 Kage Summit.
That's true.
Didn't quite give it a 5.
That is true.
But yeah, I just like the Sasuke Retrieval arc a lot.
Great. It's our favorite arcs in the OG Naruto, not even in the Shippuden.
Yeah. I mean, I would almost give like my favorite arc to the moderate section of the War arc, that 100 chapter stretch. But there are some problems with that part which like are not really present in the 5 Kage in the Sasuke Retrieval or even the Chunin Exam. So from a writing standpoint, purely and simply, those are better arcs, but I still like a lot of the stuff that happens in the moderate parts of the War arc.
Yeah, if I had to pick a second, or if I had to pick a first like Shippuden arc that's my favorite, I'd probably say the War arc, the later War arc. You know,
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah,
not,
same.
not the Kaguya stuff, but everything before that. So yeah, solid guess, Daigo, and somewhat solid guess on my part, I guess. But yeah, so that's ranking all the, or not ranking, I suppose, more scoring, despite the way I titled the video. But yeah, thank you, Daigo, for being on the channel.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this was a fun video. So let us know in the comments what you guys think about the scores that we gave in the arc. Sorry if y'all didn't agree with the scoring. Again, this is more subjective on our part. We just kind of gave our opinions on it. But if you watch all the way to the end of the video, congratulations. Please leave a like on the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to both of our channels. Be sure to subscribe to Daigo's if you haven't already. Subscribe to my channel, and let us know in the comments what your favorite arc is in the series. And until the next one, LightningSnow out.